In 1932, Australia faced an unexpected invasion, not from enemy forces, but from a horde of emus. What began as a government solution to protect crops soon spiraled into one of the strangest military campaigns in history. Armed with machine guns, the Australian Army waged war against thousands of these flightless birds. But the results were far from what anyone expected. How could a handful of emus outwit trained soldiers? Join us as we dive into the ridiculous, yet true story of the Great Emu War. In 1932, Australia faced an unlikely enemy. In the vast, barren outback, a battle raged between man and bird, the infamous Great Emu War. After World War I, Australian farmers returned to their land, eager to grow wheat. But the harsh conditions of the outback made farming difficult. Crops withered under the relentless sun. As if the drought wasn't bad enough, a new threat emerged. Emus, over 20,000 of them, descended on the fields, destroying the precious wheat that farmers so desperately needed. The emus, migrating from inland areas, saw the wheat fields as a feast. In just days, these massive flocks ravaged the crops, leaving destruction in their wake. Desperate, the farmers turned to the government for help. They demanded action, calling the emu invasion a crisis threatening their livelihoods. The Australian government responded by sending soldiers. Armed with machine guns, the military was deployed to take on the emu menace in what would soon be called the Great Emu War. Major GPW Meredith was put in charge. His mission? Eliminate the emus. With a squad of soldiers and 2 Lewis machine guns, he set out for battle. The first encounter was a disaster. The emus, faster and more agile than expected, scattered into the bush, leaving the soldiers' bullets flying uselessly into the dirt. Determined to win, the soldiers set up their machine guns. They aimed at the flocks, ready to fire with devastating force. But the emus had other plans. As soon as the soldiers fired, the emus scattered. Their zigzagging patterns made them nearly impossible to hit. The military's first attempt had failed. Despite the soldiers' efforts, the emus continued to raid the crops, showing an almost supernatural resilience. They dodged bullets and outsmarted their human foes at every turn. Time and again, the emus outmaneuvered the soldiers. They split into smaller groups, making it impossible for the military to track them all down. Then, disaster struck for the soldiers. Their machine gun jammed at a critical moment. While they struggled to fix it, the emus escaped once again. Undeterred, the military tried a new tactic, chasing the emus with trucks. But the emus outran them, leaving the soldiers dust-covered and empty-handed. Day after day, the emus continued to ravage the fields while the soldiers watched helplessly. In this bizarre war, the emus were winning. News of the Great Emu War spread quickly. Headlines mocked the military's failure, with papers calling it one of the most absurd episodes in Australian history. Across the country, people laughed at the idea of soldiers battling birds. It was a national embarrassment, and the public couldn't believe what they were hearing. By December, the soldiers were exhausted, and the emus remained relentless. The military's efforts had resulted in just a few hundred emus being killed, far short of victory. Eventually, the government pulled the plug on the operation. The emus had outlasted the military, and the Great Emu War officially ended in defeat for the humans. With no military support, the farmers had to fend for themselves. They tried to coexist with the emus, but the damage had already been done to their crops. The Great Emu War became a legend, one of the strangest conflicts in history. It stood as a reminder of how even the best-laid plans can go hilariously wrong. For the Australian military, the Emu War was a humbling experience. Their reputation took a hit, and the episode became a running joke for years to come. In the end, the emus prevailed. They continued to roam the Australian plains, seemingly unconcerned with the chaos they had caused. Nature had won this peculiar war. Today, historians look back on the Great Emu War with both amusement and disbelief. It serves as a reminder of humanity's often futile attempts to control nature. The Great Emu War of 1932 was a battle unlike any other, a chapter of history where the line between reality and absurdity became beautifully blurred.